welcome to ShePrints Africa, the Women in Print 2025 podcast series that celebrates phenomenal women in the print and design industry. Today's guest has been a powerful voice for the people, using print, ethics, and investigation to advocate for consumer rights. As a former consumer editor at the Sowetan, she's held brands accountable and translated small print into big stories and helped ordinary citizens understand the systems affecting their everyday lives. Please welcome Thuli Zungu. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for coming.
Amazing. So what I want to understand is, what is a consumer editor?
A consumer editor is someone who advocates for consumer rights. Someone who educates consumers about their rights and their duties. Someone who exposes any unfair business practice, and in the process, educating both the consumer and the service provider about the rights of each other, so that no one violates another person's right. So that's what a consumer editor does, to make sure that the grounds are level. Nobody's right is trampled upon. So that's what I was doing as a consumer. I started as a consumer journalist. And with time, as you grow, you graduate, and people or the employers, they see your value, and then they elevate your position as time goes on. So that's what I was doing. And consumer, my approach was three-pronged.
Okay.
You investigate any unfair business practice, you educate consumers, and you make sure that they are put back in the position in which they were, or they get what is due to them. So that was my approach: educate, expose, and restore the consumer's right, or put them in a place in which they were before, or their rights were trampled upon. So that was my approach, rather than writing what a consumer is telling me or the response of the service provider. So was to also make sure that each one of them, they understand their rights. And the other thing that I was doing was to encourage consumers to write their own complaint, because people do not know how to complain. They'll tell you that this is what happened. They wouldn't have the dates. They wouldn't know the sequence of events, because whereas you tell the story in a sequence of events, you can even say, this consumer has been taken for a ride for quite too long. You must say for how long this thing has been happening, so that you can tell the service provider that you have violated this person's right for a longest time. Or sometimes they would do that because they know that certain complaints, they expire during a certain period of time. So you don't know that if you do not demand your rights to be respected at a certain period, there's something called prescription. When you complain, they'll tell you that you can no longer complain, because this thing is prescribed. So you have stayed for quite too long before you could complain. Yet consumers, they do not know that there's something called prescription.
Yes.
And so that would make it easier for me to even tell the service provider that this is an unfair business practice. You knew that this person has complained for this long.
And they knew very well what
Yeah.
they're doing to victimize those consumers.
It would be more like setting them up for a failure, because a person doesn't know that their rights, they expire. So if you keep your records, if you keep your complaints, and you encourage consumers to write things down, as they complain, so that you can tell how long this person has been victimized. So those are the kind of the stories that one would tell, that this person did this and the consumer has been complaining for this long. It is not only the complaints that one would be dealing about, but the abuse that goes with it. We expose complaints like, let me say, like franchising. You remember franchising, they would just give you franchise within.
They would advertise that
within a small radius and setting you up for failure. Because let me say, there was a time when Pie City had a franchise, Pie City mushrooming in town. Each corner there would be a city pie. How are you going to compete? How are you going to make money? You're being set up for a failure. So we expose those kind of things, and to even let them know that they are violating their own FASA right, a franchise
association
rules. You cannot place a franchise within certain radius. Yeah. So yeah, it was City Pie. We also had complaints about. I'm just giving you the kind of big
contexts, yeah,
kind of bigger complaints that are dealt with. There was this other company. It was called Chancellor Motors. It was a car dealer.
Yeah.
This car dealer was selling one car to a number of people. When it comes to delivery, they couldn't deliver any car. They've taken people's money. And the car, there's only one car that they have sold. And at the time, the complaints were going to the offices of Consumer Affairs. Consumer Affairs had no platform to write stories.
Yes.
So, and I would take those stories, write them, and all those consumers who were ripped off by that institution got their money back, because the offices of Consumer Affairs, because we worked in collaboration with them. If they can't resolve complaints, I would be exposing them. If a complaint needs to go to court, I would
take it to Consumer Affairs.
To Consumer Affairs. So Chancellor Motors, we exposed Chancellor Motors, and the offices of Consumer Affairs, they got an order. They got them liquidated and had their offices closed.
Sure. That is such an important task to do, because even till this day and age, I don't even think in South Africa we have those type of platforms anymore where we can go to a journalist, or not even a journalist, an advocate such as yourself, because you are now an activist. You are using print, you're using that medium, that powerful medium, in order to expose business
unethical
practices,
yes.
Ethical business practices, and you're using it to expose the truth, so that businesses that are too big for their booths can be put into a sort of that corner, so that they can be put into punishment or anything of that sort.
Okay, in franchising, right? I want to go back to it, because the offices of Consumer Affairs, they regarded the franchisees as business people, not as consumers. But, someone retires from work, they take their money to buy a franchise, and they get ripped off by these franchisors. It's their hard-earned money, it's their pension money.
Yeah.
So my stories, as I would write them, would show the public that this actually is not a business person. This is a
consumer.
And
because they're going into that contract as a consumer, because it's a franchise, you're essentially selling that business to someone, so that they can have a sense of they can be employed, or they can have their own business to feed their families. Then going into contracts that are unethical, they are advertised to them in a way that is labeled incorrectly, and they go into a franchise thinking that they're going to get R1 million worth of franchise equipment, and then they end up in debt themselves.
Exactly, and having their house being repossessed, they end up being poor because of this franchise agreement that they have entered into without understanding how it operates, and they're being set up for failure. I hope you remember there was once a company called old fashioned fish and chips.
Old-fashioned fish and chips. Well, I know these are fish and chips, but do tell.
This company was it was selling like nice chips and fish, and Russians, and it was it was growing. People love buying their franchise agreement, but the franchise or the person who was selling it was delaying to deliver. He was using people's money to fund his her lavish lifestyle. I remember one of my colleagues, Robert Makwaza, used his pension money to buy their franchise. He did not get the franchise. He ended up coming back to me to say, "Thuli, here's this person. He hasn't given me the franchise. Sorry, he hasn't given me my franchise, and I'm suffering." And he's playing a run around, and there were two actually who came at the same time, and the whistle blew on them, started writing stories. Can you imagine writing stories about one institution for 7 years with different people being ripped off by the owner of the, including attorneys? Can you believe it? I remember one attorney had invested about 4 million to buy the franchise. The woman was not delivering. And the company was flourishing all over the show. I think there are about 300 franchisees that were operating, and a number of other people were complaining. 7 years later, there was a National Consumer Commissioner.
Yeah.
I took all those complaints, the ones that were not resolved. I think there were about 27 or so. I sent them to the Consumer Commissioner, Umamudi Pumhlala.
So you were beyond a writer.
And
you were literally a lifesaver, a truth seeker, because in all of that you were doing was beyond what your job description says, was beyond what an editor is. You didn't just take consumer stories, but you fought to resolve them.
Exactly.
You fought to resolve them.
So those complaints were taken to the commissioner, who ruled against that institution. They had a one-sided contract. One-sided contract, it's a contract that will favor the service provider and while violating the rights of the consumer. And they would be saying, you signed this contract giving us more power than you have. So you had to find someone who was going to enforce them to change that one-sided contract. And my stories also influenced the legislation, because the franchise were recognized as consumers in the Consumer Protection Act.
Franchisees, so you even changed policies because of the stories that you told.
Yeah, it influenced them, and then the law writers would see that this is nonsense. We need to change these things. We need to include these people here.
Yes, give them the rights that they deserve so that they are not bullied by the big corporations, like big franchisees.
So those stories, I wrote them to show that these are consumers and not business people. So they were included in the Consumer Protection Act. And you remember in 2010, when we were going to host the World Cup, the World Cup, we had a problem of overbooking by the timeshare institution.
Yes.
So the rights of the consumers were not included in the Consumer Protection Act. So they had to include them, and they had to tell the institution not to overbook people, because they would overbook people to
take that money,
to earn interest on it. And then when you cancel at the last minute, you don't have any place to go, you don't know where to, they would give you your money, but at their own when at their own
time,
at their own
at their own pace, so that they can gain that interest, and then they don't have to pay the interest back. They give it sometimes people even forget to take their money back during that process.
So you get some would get frustrated, right? Some people cannot fight. They cannot make sure that their rights are being enforced. People would just give up. Some people would do that. So then the overbooking and all the laws, they change. I love it because they included these things in the stories. I would also tell stories to show that this person is illiterate, this person cannot read and write, and this person cannot sign a contract he does not understand. So the writing of the contracts in people's languages was also
included in that process.
In the Consumer Protection Act, that people should be given contracts even in their languages. So I'm just showing that how my approach to consumerism was like, and how it influenced the legislation. Before I was chewing and throwing. I started at City Press. I was headhunted by the Offices of Consumer Affairs. I headed the consumer complaints at the Offices of the Head of Affairs. And what I would be doing was to read all the complaints that I was getting, and classify them and give them to people with different skills, like, oh, this one is good in doing this, just like that.
Yes.
So the number of complaints that we're getting was the complaints about people being blacklisted repeatedly. You get blacklisted, and then the you just get someone from an institution telling you that if you don't pay by this particular day, we are going to blacklist you. It's a receptionist telling you that.
So they don't even have the weight or the authority to tell you that.
Yeah, and or people, at the call center. When at the call center, they'll be telling you, call these people and demand money. You'll get those calls
Yes,
from people. Yeah,
it does happen.
Yeah, it does happen. Ms. Zungu, you haven't paid your money, and we just a courtesy call to remind. Those kind of people, they would be telling you that they are going to blacklist you. So, got those complaints. My duty was also to write to the Department of Finance.
Yes.
In Pretoria. Would collate complaints, write the problem areas, and send them to the Department of Finance. The problematic complaints were credit bureau. Credit bureau was not regulated. People will just blacklist you willy-nilly. People would not get work because
they're blacklisted.
Yeah. A person is blacklisted for R3, and at a certain period, like I'm saying, you'd be blacklisted repeatedly over and over again. So I told the offices of finance that these are the problem, explaining how they were conducted, how there was abuse in the credit industry, and motivating to have the credit industry regulated. I left the offices of consumer affairs, and
so you not only wrote the stories, you did it was a level of investigation that was so pertinent to the issues that people were going through, and still changed that legislator.
And that gave birth to the Consumer Protect, the Credit, National Credit Act.
Yes.
That's how it came about. It was not only myself who was motivating for the industry to be regulated, and other bodies that were being approached to give them, the kind of complaints that they were getting. And later there was the National Credit Act, and the offices of consumer of the finances, they then recommended my name that I should go and serve at the Office of Credit Ombudsman.
Okay.
As an independent director.
Oh.
Representing the consumers, even.
But in this day and age, where, digital mediums are so rife in everything that we do, our social media platforms use, um, people use our social media platforms as platforms to complain. But is there a follow-up? Do you think that a consumer editor or a director of consumerism, are they still there? Are they still advocating for people's rights? Or did that just go away with that print media? And is digital media diluting that process?
I would see people complaining, what is this TikTok? It's now called X. You would get complaints sent to this institution by the consumers via TikTok. But if you don't go to, maybe let me say there's a Thuli Zungu company on TikTok. If you don't go there, you won't see that people are complaining. You see, you won't know that people are complaining. You won't even know that the complaint has been resolved or not, because there is one-way traffic. It's someone complaining about this institution, and there is no
resolve.
There's no response. You don't know how the complaint was resolved, or if the consumer was satisfied with the responses that they got. Well, on TikTok, I don't know if they are complaining. There are consumer stories that have been told. I don't know. I haven't made any follow-up. And besides, I don't know any consumer journalist. That was me. It was, I left, and then Sowetan tried to do stories on consumerism. If you don't have the knowledge, if you don't know your Consumer Protection Act, like I'm saying, I have my law of contract. I know when someone there's a misrepresentation in using a contract. For an example, I'm telling you that, there is 23,000 rands that I think is a cashback that you need to get. But for you to get that money, there are a few questions that I need to you to answer, and it's misrepresenting what is supposed to be, so that you'll be saying yes, 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 and then and it's more like you're agreeing to a contract. Then later on, you have a contract that is being sent to you, but I did not enter into this contract. Yet it was that misrepresentation that was made to get your consent.
Do you think that this happens a lot in advertising, a lot in, especially, when you buy something and a packaging, on labels, there's packaging that has something, and you say, okay, this is what I'm purchasing, and then you purchase it, and then when you end up getting it, it's not something that you.
No, it's not like that. It's to say something that is not true, so that you agree to entering into a contract.
Yes.
It's misrepresenting the facts to get you to sign a contract. I don't know if I'm clear.
Yeah. So does that also happen in data, when people want to get your data?
I don't know if it happens when we, let me say the insurance people like to do that, like to misrepresent facts so that you sign up a contract with them. And when you look into the contract, it's not what you were talking about. So you if you don't know that there is a misrepresentation, how do you fight for a consumer? How do you tell a service provider that you misrepresented this person? So this is why I was saying my advantage was my law of contract,
Yeah.
and my exposure to working at the offices of consumer affairs. You know, when I think there were about 11 of us doing specializing in different departments. It was housing, it was motor cars. You learn skills from different people.
From different sectors as well.
Yeah, from different people. You end up like you end up like fortified with more information, with more knowledge. You become more knowledgeable in fighting the consumer rights. So I wasn't choosing specific complaints. I was doing almost any complaint that landed on my desk. So yeah, that's what made me the consumer journalist.
Yeah, so she was.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And at one stage, I remember when the banks were changing from, you remember that our parents used to have the books.
Yes, the checkbooks.
Not the checkbooks, the books. When the books.
I may be too young.
Yeah. When you go to bank, they will write, there was a booklet, they would write you deposited X amount. And when you withdraw, then they would scratch out, would you withdraw 10,000 rands?
Okay.
They used books. And when the ATMs were introduced, people had to get the cards. And the card, you'll have to go and collect it from the bank. Some people complained that their monies disappeared. The cards went missing. They would be told that you collected your card and wada, and money would have been withdrawn from an ATM. The ATMs at the time did not have the surveillance cameras. So I told most of the banks that whose clients were complaining that you don't even have the surveillance cameras.
And that's when it influenced them getting the surveillance.
Yes, exactly. You have surveillance cameras on your desk, but not at your ATMs. How are you going to tell who is withdrawing the money? Because you need these surveillance cameras on these ATMs. You cannot tell people they need to change from the books to this plastic that you're giving them and to withdraw their money from the wall where there is no camera. So they started putting the cameras again. You know,
yes.
You know those things like telling the institution, some of the institution, the things that they needed to do, and you get fulfillment when you see them doing it.
Yes. Yes. Power to the people. Power to women. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, and my fight did not only end with the consumers. There was a time at Sowetan when we're absorbed by the Sunday Times. We had our own pension fund, and as people were being retrenched or losing their jobs, the fund, it was getting smaller and smaller. And administering it would mean they would have to use our money. And our money was getting depleted in the process.
Oh no.
And the owners of Sunday Times, they were taking their own time to absorb us into their main system.
Sure.
And I took up that complaint. Consumer, my colleagues were like, "Thuli, do something."
You love to because you're the only one who can.
"Thuli, do something." And well, I started working on it. And the bosses, they will be like, you're an alarmist to stop doing what you do. Oh, okay. I'll take it to the offices of the pensions fund adjudicator.
Sure. Huh. So even you were a consumer yourself. You protected your colleagues
Exactly.
that time.
Exactly.
That is amazing.
So I took the complaint and they said, and I told them I'm going to take it to the pensions fund adjudicator. The bosses, they stood out. And then I said, that's what I do. That's how I fight for the rights of the consumers. That's what I do. If the complaint does not get resolved between the employer and the employee, I take it to the pensions fund adjudicator. And what do you think I'm doing? You employed me to do this, and I want to do exactly that. You say I mustn't doing it. And I was told, but go think about it. Otherwise, when you are being bullied, otherwise we're going to treat you as a second best. And I left their office, went to my desk. I did exactly that. I wrote to the bench
adjudicator, and you wrote to them, and they responded?
They responded the following week, and my bosses, they denied having done so. And they had forgotten that they give us tapes, that if you are interviewing somebody, have a tape.
So you recorded them?
Yeah.
I love it for you. It's the bravery for me.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I took the tape, I sent it to the pensions fund adjudicate to say this is them saying they were going to remove. It was a videotape of about 1 hour with the person from, I think it was Sanlam, telling us how our funds were going to be moved. 5 years later, our funds were not moved.
Did you ever receive those funds?
Yeah. Subsequent to after the pensions fund adjudicator ordered them to
release the funds,
to remove the fund, I think it was in May. In July, they decided to retrench.
Oh no. You're too powerful for them.
Took the tape, sent it to the pensions fund adjudicator. The pensions fund adjudicator approached them and asked them to listen to the thing and asked them, do you know these people who are talking? Yeah. Couldn't believe it. They couldn't believe it. I did that, yeah, and I think that marked the end of my journalism at Soweto, because
you took up space.
Yeah,
you were brave. You had audacity.
Yeah, I think, yeah, maybe let me say, I think I was brave.
Yes.
And I know when people's rights were being trampled upon, and I was doing exactly that. We exposed attorneys who were taking road accident funds money belonging to their clients and not giving them. I did that, reporting them to Law Science Society. It would be your estate agencies who would be selling property and not delivering houses to their consumers, and reporting them to the estate agents affairs board, ensuring that consumers are getting what is due to them, their money. Quite recently, there was this other estate agent that almost ripped off this old woman. It was 1.3 million on a property. I took up that matter, and she got her money, and I'm glad she got her money before she passed on, because she passed on, I think, 2 months ago.
Oh no.
You see, and yeah, that was my approach to consumerism. Not just to write a story and do nothing and make no impact.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's very clear that your role in print, your role in telling stories, your role as a journalism did not just end there. You used your audacity your bravery, the courage that you had in you to fight for other people, to use that print medium, right, to even fight the people that employed you yourself.
Yeah.
Like it's mind blowing to me, and I'm actually inspired, especially as a person who has these platforms. People have platforms, they have digital platforms, they have all these platforms that they can use to complain. However, they don't know how to complain. As you said, they don't know their rights. They don't know their rights as consumers. But you knew the people's rights. You knew where to go, how to go about it, and you knew how to take those people to be accountable for their actions.
Exactly. I mean, sometimes we get complaints where somebody will be telling you that I've been doing this business for the past 40 years. And like, what? You've been violating people's rights for 40 years. And you aren't even telling me that you've been doing this for so long. No, you have to tell people that this is wrong. You can't be boasting about doing something so wrong. And you're telling me I can't be telling you how to run your business. You're doing it wrong. So it was all of that and ensuring that people realize their wrongdoing. And I was doing that, and I was happy to have accomplished what I did, because during the period in which I have been working, I think by the time I was retrenched, I would have recovered over 150 million on behalf of the consumers. The service was free, and I wouldn't be tempted to accept any
Briberies.
Yeah, or any get somebody saying, okay, can I take you out for tea, for coffee? I don't even drink coffee.
Exactly. Okay, Mama, you have really, really told us such a story of bravery and of courage, and I am so inspired because we need more people like you. We need more people advocating for the right thing to do, not for the thing that costs money.
Yeah.
Not just for the money, but for the purpose in which what you came here to do. And I wanted to finally understand, we have Women in Print, which is why we're here. We're celebrating, we're honoring you for using your platform to have a purpose, to have a purpose beyond what it is that it is there for. There are platforms such as your Twitter, as you said. We have platforms such as email, such as your TikTok, where a lot of these people are there to complain, but they are not receiving those responses because they don't know the processes that go on. So I wanted to find out, with the Women in Print 2025, especially when you think about advocacy and ethical storytelling and designing things for an impact, do you think that these platforms like right now that we're having are necessary to have?
Yeah, I think they are necessary. You just need the right person who's going to send out the right information to the consumers, empower the consumers about their rights, not only handling their complaints, and you can still handle their complaints, but with more rights, people can be in a position to fight for themselves. I'm not going to be here forever to be fighting for their rights, right?
Absolutely.
You need people to be empowered, to understand, to know their rights, and to enforce them right on time, or nip things in the bud, not to wait for for a later time, or start looking for, what happened to Thuli Zungu?
Yeah.
You understand? I still get telephone calls from people saying, I got your numbers from Sowetan. Hey, I'm having this problem. Do you think you can still help me? You think you can help? They, 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 they tend to rely on somebody they have seen his or her job. They've seen you help people. They've seen you recover people's money. They've seen you exposing, at one stage it was Standard Bank, it was taking someone else's money for a house they never built, for a house that these are they built the person a house. I went to the property where they said the house was built, took the pictures. It was just bare land. I sent it to them and show me the house.
Show me the house. Wow, Thuli, thank you so much for your voice and your insight. Thank you so much for your tireless commitment to fighting for what is right. So we want to just say thank you. You've reminded us that it's not about selling products. It's not about just writing. It's about telling the truth, and it's about doing what is right.
Exactly.
So any final advice to any media professionals?
Yeah, I think each journalism, when they go to a school, I mean, I didn't do journalism. They would tell them it is important to write the truth, nothing but the truth, and both sides of the story. Yes, you can tell a story, a more educational story, but not a distorted story, because that dents your name.
That is true. Thank you so much again to our viewers. Join us at Women in Print 2025 live from Voda World, right? Johannesburg, Voda World on August 8th. Let's talk the truth.